have you yet weighed in at all on the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni thing?
No, I was watching my friend Danny on Direct talk about it the other day because I heard little ancillary stuff and I had no idea. The past year seriously has been like I've been so wrapped up in my own situation that I haven't followed much of anything. And so I was trying to catch up. You had mentioned it to me. She'd mentioned it to me. Megan Fox had mentioned it to me. And so I haven't weighed in, but what it sure looks like is Blake Lively asked for a bunch of stuff, kind of got like everything she wanted, and then proceeded to be mad about it and is like complaining about this guy. And it seems like this Baldoni guy made the mistake of like listening and doing everything, which is a common problem. Like guys listen to women in these professional environments. And they were so scared of the Me Too movement and how brutally it just ravaged some people. Like it caught some bad people, but it ravaged a bunch of people who, I don't want to say they're good or bad. They're just people living under different mores than what this movement thought was okay. Right. And so they got so scared of it, they started capitulating to all these ideas and setting up these their own barriers, which ended up setting themselves up for failure. And that's what it, from just an outside blanket perspective, I have very little knowledge of this, but that's what it looks like has happened. And people seem to be kind of finding that out, and it's really impacting Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively's reputation, which now they're mad about, obviously. But
it seems like you have actually a pretty good handle on the general dynamic there, to be honest with you. Do you feel like, let me put it this way, are you surprised at how insanely how many people are focused on this, like how big the story has blown up?
I don't know. I've been watching long before I joined YouTube, long before I had a law degree even. I was watching the glee with which we shred celebrity. And there seems to be this allergic reaction to anyone who can be in some way heroic. And I know people are thinking that I'm probably talking about myself, and I'm not. I saw it first with Tiger Woods, right? Tiger Woods did a whole lot for golf and coming into a culture that was really behind on racial relations. I mean, when Tiger Woods first won the Masters at Augusta, he wasn't allowed to be a member because he's black. Like that was still a thing that existed in the world, and people kind of forget how far behind golf was everywhere else. Just in the regular course of integrating racially, not like any forced stuff. They were largely left alone because of the privacy of golf clubs, right? And so Tiger Woods does all this, and he's like this. Not only is he just really, really great at golf, he seems to be a rather beneficial impact in the community. He has this like not in your face way to breach a racial divide. It wasn't like battered into people. He didn't come out with some giant social justice campaign. He just came out and kicked everybody's ass at golf. I'm like, well, I guess the black people can play too. We'll let him in, so he does all this, but man, when it comes out that he slept with these other women, people were so anxious to just tear down everything else about him. Mm-hmm. And it was like almost like they wanted to undo everything he's done. It's like, well, this stuff isn't really related to that. And so that's when I first started really paying attention, which is a combination of factors like my age and what I was watching media wise. But you see that happen. And it doesn't matter what side of the celebrity people fall on. These people rise to this ubiquitous status. I mean, Blake Lively may not be a household name, but she's very famous. She was really famous in the 90s mid 2000s. But Ryan Reynolds, of course, is Deadpool. He's involved with Marvel. He's done tons of hilarious movies. He launched a cell phone company. Like, he's not just an actor. He's become, in many cases, a household name. Well, once that happens, you become so lightning rod polarizing when anything goes down, and everybody wants to see what goes on either side, whether they're rooting for your triumph or your downfall. And so I'm not really surprised by how big and popular this gets. We saw with Johnny Depp, it's like Johnny Depp's a huge actor or whatever, but like, I didn't go around thinking about Johnny Depp stuff during my average day prior to the trial. Like, it's like, oh, there's that guy from that movie. I like him as an actor. His movies are good. And that's about it. And it's same with Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively, but they're at that level where the engagement is just off the charts, and they have the ability to reach and impact so many different people because of the studios and their networks. And they almost form these like alliances and coalitions amongst other actors, and it can burn everybody to the ground. So it's just it's so enthralling that I'm not surprised at how big it got now. I would have been surprised a couple years ago, but now I'm just like, no way. Anything that involves an A-list celebrity who's got name recognition throughout at least the US, if not the world, you're going to have just a huge response to it. And people are going to go all in on either side.
I think that's absolutely right. And, you know, it's interesting. The difference being in like a Tiger Woods is that I think that the public soured on him just out of the sense of like sexual propriety or something, kind of finger wagging. In this case, you know, like with Amber Heard, Blake Lively's actually gone after aggressively trying to destroy someone. But I think that you're right about the fact that society is always just kind of waiting for an excuse to really jump into these celebrity dramas and cheer for their heroes and really cheer against the villains, right? I mean, it is kind of like the Roman arena, and you've experienced that too, to a degree, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, someone was just banned off of Twitter. And my interaction with that person was they organized an online campaign to have a bunch of weirdos write ethics complaints against me because of me talking about a trans creator who was helping or attempting to help children create hormone replacement therapy in their bathtubs without a doctor or parental oversight. And I'm like, look, I don't care about the trans people. Like, I don't care what you do to your body once you're 18, but let's not have children making bathtub estrogen and chemically altering their physiology without a doctor or a parent or a therapist even being consulted. That just isn't the realm of a YouTube creator. And so I said that with a little bit more colorful language, but they organized a campaign against me. And I look and I'm like, you're a Harvard law professor. Why? Like, I'm a guy on YouTube who went to a shitty law school. Like, why are you after me? But it was like, this trans issue was so important that it's critical to everything about them. And that's what annoys people about trans activists or LGBTQ activists or feminists or whatever. It's like, you're like a vegan. Everything is about this thing. And we don't really we're like, okay, yeah, rights or whatever, but we don't really care. But they need you to care because it's all they care about. And in a lot of ways, I think the Blake Lively situation has elements of that because of, and again, from both sides, because of the Me Too factor. And watching Me Too ravage, we'll go B-list and down media in 2018, and then watching it lose its teeth so dramatically after COVID. Like, COVID killed Me Too harder than just about anything, because everybody's like, we don't actually care about that.
That's interesting. I've not heard anyone say that, but that's interesting.
Yeah, it was really, it's like, we want to know if we're going to die, if we're going to be forced to take vaccines, if we're ever going to get to go out again. And everybody was also removed from the workplace. So like the momentum of having additional Me Too stuff come out was gone. The steam was taken out of it. Right. And, but now we want to know, like, wait, is this going to be a thing? Like, is it going to be a thing again where someone can make an accusation and completely shred someone's entire career? And that's what they appear to be trying to do to Baldoni, right? Right or wrong. Right. That's what they seem to be trying to do, is just shred his career from the onset. And the goal of a Me Too type movement is to always have the damage done prior to the ability to examine evidence.
Yes.
And so I think we all want to watch, like, what is this going to have any teeth, or do we have to wait for the next like social movement to come through? Like, what are we even doing here? So that's what I think is really building into it as well.
That's great analysis. So I want to ask you two things from the perspective of a lawyer, someone who understands the law. it seems like in these Me Too cases, and I'll take Baldoni's as the best example, that these attorneys are getting more and more public in their activities, and that they're venturing more and more sort of Adam Waldman like into the public realm and fighting a PR battle. It seems increasingly that attorneys like Brian Friedman or Adam Waldman or whomever, they see themselves as PR advocates just as much as legal advocates. Do you think this will continue to increase this hybridization of the media world and PR? I mean, and legal. Yeah. I mean, no, it's been going on since OJ, but doesn't it feel like to you it's really taken a new level?
Yeah, social media changed everything. And then everybody underestimated the impact of social media because legacy media held the reins on everything for so long. Once legacy media started capitulating to social media, the power dynamic shifts, and it's not going back in any foreseeable way. So, before you could make a stink on social media, but you weren't going to get Tom Cruise fired from a movie. Right. Now, you can get Tom Cruise fired from Mission Impossible if you want to. Like, you can do it. You could organize a social media campaign. It may not be true, right? And I think someone like him has probably been very careful, especially in the last several decades, insulating themselves from these types of accusations in the ways you would expect, having intimacy coordinators on any set that involves any sort of interaction, really hammering out in contracts exactly what's going to be there. Like, that's having a good agent will do that. And good entertainment lawyers will do that for these celebrities. But once that shift occurred, that's when all these movements got their power. And with that, you have this issue of now the audience is in control of everything and everything is at risk all the time. Because the PR side of it is so damaging. I don't want to like toot my own horn, but when I covered the Vic Mignogna case where he got Me Too'd back in 2019, that was one of the things I was talking about all the time. I'm like, lawyers are 2 decades behind everybody else all the time. They're risk averse, especially like the larger firms that you get. You don't have lawyers willing to take risks. And so the PR response for Vic when he got Me Too'd was to put out a statement like apologizing. And I'm like, what are you doing? You can't come out and apologize right now. You don't even know what the mob is really accusing you of here. And that set him up in a really bad way. And it was literally a PR apology. I was like, you don't need that. You need to have your lawyers and you need to have people advocating for you in the public arena, because whether you win or lose your legal case, your career lives and dies on what you do now and who's going to have faith in you to keep going afterwards.
Right.
And I've seen so many law firms not do that. And that was one of the strongest things that I think Adam Waldman did for Johnny Depp, because Depp sat there just taking beating after beating after beating. Waldman starts coming out and speaking for him as his representative. And suddenly the tables start to turn. People start to go, wait, this story isn't this way. Wait, he's actually standing up and fighting back. And this guy's making some sense. And that kind of opens the door.
And they leaked those audios, or they circulated those audios too, which was huge.
Right. And in any of this war that can be fought in social media, I mean, when your job is to be popular, you have to fight in the realm of popularity. You can fight legally and it can help, but it cannot save you. It cannot save a career. It cannot stop an accusation. You have to fight in the realm of where your popularity, where your resources exist in the first place. And most importantly, especially as you get down from legacy media into people like us, creators who cultivate an audience of people who like what we do for whatever reason, you have to leverage the help and support of the people who got you where you are in the first place. And if you don't, then I've made some decisions about that personally that may not reflect immediately what I'm saying, but like I made those decisions very consciously. I knew what I would have to sacrifice and I knew the reasons I was doing it.
Well, and you were in your circumstances too, were not to put too fine a point on it, that's a criminal versus here we're talking civil. So I know that's right. That's a big difference as well.
Yeah, of course. I didn't, I have a government to fight, and fighting the government on social media doesn't really work. Just like you'll win and then you'll go to prison.
Yeah.
So
a Pyrrhic victory, if ever there was one.
Right. And so it works out a little bit differently. But watching the Vic situation, watching Johnny Depp, watching any of these celebrity trials, and you see their lawyers and you're like, what are you doing? You have no consideration for what this person needs. And that was
in a PR sense, you mean?
Right. And that's what I mean. Their lifeblood is their reputation.
Right.
And that was one of the frustrating things, even with working with my lawyer, who in my case, who understood that. They understand it at an intellectual level. They don't have a visceral grasp of what social media is. And that's because they're not on it in an effective way. They may have a few hundred to a few thousand followers, but it's like when you start getting to hundreds of thousands, millions of followers, like it's the level of influence that exists and the potential devastating effects of that in either direction have to be realized. And so I think there are law firms out there that have a grasp of it and are getting better. Harmeet Dillon, with the Dillon Law Group, she works with Ron, she's a firm partner or whatever. Ron Coleman is one of the lawyers from that firm as well. Like they take on these high profile cases that go they go against governments, they go against organizations. Ron Coleman's been representing Gavin McInnes for years and years and years against the Southern Poverty Law Center. Because they called him like a racist or something. And he's like, I'm not a racist. And this distinction, like you've not only made me a racist, but you call me a hate group. Like that distinction has damaged me. So now I'm going to sue you. But suing the Southern Poverty Law Center is damn near impossible. Like they're an organization that has been built on a perception of goodwill, right? Like, oh, we point out people who are nasty, horrible people.
Right.
It's like, well, what if you did that wrong though? What if you get it wrong and you ruin someone's life like that? What do we do now? And so you see the Dillon Law Group, they're kind of inspirational in my opinion, as far as being on the forefront of recognizing reputation, recognizing what people are up against in these situations, and also leveraging the celebrity of the person, because you built it, use it. Like, because you're if you don't, it's going away anyway. You have to win.
Right.
So.
And I see increasingly that the legal strategy for a number of these famous Me Too guys is increasingly taking the importance of the PR angle into consideration. I mean, some of these defamation lawsuits that some of these guys file, like Marilyn Manson, I don't even think that their attorneys expect that they're going to go the full distance. But the idea is that the law is at least, it's really the only forum left that has some legitimacy in people's minds, where you can get your evidence out there and in a cogent way, an organized way, and you can say, look, I've got evidence, right? And so it's like you said, with these Me Too cases, people's minds are made up long before you get to a court determination or anything like that.
Right. And if you think about it, if you're at the level where you already have entertainment lawyers or you have a corporation paying for your lawyers, filing a document in court that will be covered by the news is about the most cost-effective advertising you can do. Because once you've already sunk costs into representation and you're in the middle of this thing, like filing a document is essentially free. There might be like $100 filing fee depending on the forum you're in or whatever, but so what, and that's going to get play when you're a celebrity, even a minor celebrity, that's going to get play on Fox News, on CNN, on NBC. Like they're going to cover it and they're going to spread whatever narrative you need spread. So using lawfare in that way, again, and this takes a really sophisticated conversation with a client, because you have to tell them our goal is always to win ethically. Like your legal goal as a lawyer representing someone is to win their case, but really it's to zealously represent them in all forums. And so it's like, we may not even think we can win this case, but is the cost of doing this case worth possibly preserving everything you've built? Without it, do you have a chance? Can you get a job if you don't fight? And the answer is often no. And you look at some of the responses of some of the early Me Too people. One of them that I think is like the most One of the most baffling responses in history was Kevin Spacey when he was accused by Anthony Rapp of molesting him when he was a teenager. And Kevin Spacey's like, well, I don't remember that, but if I did, I'm sorry. And it's like, what? That's your answer? You cannot say, I don't remember fondling you as a child, but if I did, like, I'm sorry, I was probably drunk at a party. Like, oh my God, this is not better.
By the way, and then he threw in, remember that announcement that he was gay too. As a gay man, it's like,
look, I may have done that. I'm sorry. I don't remember. If I did, too bad. Also, I'm going to live my life as a gay man now. It's like, you are not helping.
It was
not helping at all.
Yeah, it was not a good statement. That's for sure.